We have now been working with epoxy for about 4 years. This was our first table pour. It was the largest pour we'd done at the time. As with every pour we do, we learn a great deal, from calculating the proper amount of epoxy to getting a flawless finish. First, we had a nautical chart of the Casco Bay main area printed directly on a 48-inch by 30-inch by 1-inch Baltic birch plywood by a large format UV printer. When doing a project this large, we typically work with 2 people. Since we're using a tabletop epoxy, we only have about 30 minutes working time, so we need to work fast. A clear coat is spread over the landmass to help keep the ocean colors at bay. Next, we pour 3 different blue hues over the ocean. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that little bell so you won't miss any of our maker projects with tips and shared resources like the UV printing found in the description below. We ended up discovering that we miscalculated the amount of epoxy needed by about 200 grams. So while I was mixing the epoxy, Jeff was mixing some more. One quick pass with a torch to pop the bubbles, and add a little heat to the epoxy to help activate cells in the white pigment paste. It's important not to overheat any one area or you'll leave scorch marks. Use a consistent back and forth motion with the heat gun. This spreads and mixes the epoxy pigments. For this size table, we ended up doing 2 colored coats and 1 finish clear coat. Each coat is just over 1,500 grams of a 1-to-1 part tabletop epoxy. 1 gallon is about 3,800 grams. I prefer to weigh the epoxy when mixing. We used a total of 4,692 grams. At this point, we'd done 2 pours and we were happy with the results, so we did a final sanding to ensure a smooth, flat finish surface. We like to use a Rotex sander to do this. Then we wipe it clean with denatured alcohol and a rag. We set up a homemade dust tent above our work table for the final clear coat. For this, we take no chances of dust or puppy fur. and use disposable coveralls, which we'll reuse in other projects. Now my favorite part, the spreading of the epoxy with a homemade notched trowel. This helps spread the epoxy evenly along the entire surface. Epoxy is self-leveling, so those lines will disappear. Be sure to get the sides too. A butane torch is used to pop the bubbles formed when mixing and spreading. I'll put a link in the description below on how to make your own dust tent. Tabletop epoxy is dry in about 24 hours in 68 to 72 degree temperature. However, it takes about 7 days to fully cure. Time to check the results. And here it is, all assembled. Be sure to leave your questions and comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.